What's your name? Where are you from? Why are you supporting Palestine today?
All right, my name is Wonjtek. I'm Polish, but I was born here, born and raised in the Polish Republic of Ealing, West London, actually. And I'm here because what the Israelis, the Zionists, are doing to the Palestinians is genocide. They've been doing it for decades, all right? The Nakba in 1948, and before that, the Zionists decided, it was like disaffected Europeans decided they were going to form a state of their own, and they chose to do it in Palestine. And they said, oh, a land without people for a people without land. Absolute nonsense, because Palestine was very well developed, olive groves everywhere, and had been in existence for thousands of years. Anyway, so they went over there, the Zionists, and the British government at the time, which had the British Mandate of Palestine, designated them as terrorists. Because you had the Haganah, you had the Stern Gang, Erdogan, lots of these terrorists, and they murdered British civilians, British policemen, British soldiers, and British diplomats. They murdered Lord Moyne, the senior British diplomat in England. They blew up the King David Hotel, killed some like 100 people there, all right? And obviously terrorists. And Israel has been run by terrorists ever since. It's a terrorist mentality. So Netanyahu is in a long line of terrorists running this state. And it's a racist apartheid state. On the 19th of July 2018, the Israeli Knesset passed the so-called Nation-State Act into law. And this states, Part 1, Section 3, and I quote, national self-determination in the state of Israel is unique to the Jewish people, end of quote. So this means national self-determination, and some translations say is exclusive to the Jewish people, but it's the same thing. It means it doesn't include the Arameans, doesn't include the Druze, doesn't include the Bedouin, and doesn't include the Palestinians, all right? It's a racist statement, all right? The Israelis have said themselves that they are a racist apartheid state, all right? So what everybody here needs to do is tell everybody in England who don't know the situation there, they don't know the history, that Israel is not a democracy as they claim to be, the only democracy in the Middle East. It's a racist apartheid state, in much the same way that South Africa was a racist apartheid state, and sanctions were imposed on South Africa, and that helped to destroy the apartheid regime. We need to support BDS, impose sanctions on Israel, and destroy the apartheid system there, all right?
What do you think about Hamas?
Hamas actually were elected to be the government of Gaza, all right? I'm not sure, I don't know enough about Hamas to say whether or not it was a wise thing to do, to launch the attack on the 7th of October. What was the aims they had in that particular time? I don't know enough about that, so I can't really say, all right? But definitely the Israelis, Netanyahu in particular, because he's in a coalition with very far extreme right-wingers, people who Israel itself designated as terrorists, like Ben Gvir at one time, all right? He can only keep himself in power by placating these far-right extremists. And they have said time and time again, they want to kill all the Palestinians, ethnically cleanse them, and the economics of the affair is very simple. The Ben Gurion Canal, they want to drive that to the Mediterranean through Gaza, so to cut the distance to the Mediterranean. They want the gas and oil that is off the sea of Gaza. They want to exploit that, and that's what they're going to do. And because the Israel lobby is so strong in the United States, because anyone wishing to stand for public office in America needs to spend millions of dollars, the Israel lobby there is quite prepared to give them those millions as long as they swear fealty to the state of Israel. And they do exactly what Israel wants them to do. And so American tax dollars are going to give Israelis a very good standard of living, free healthcare, whereas 20,000 Americans die every year because they can't afford medical insurance, all right? The Americans have got to wise up and say, why are we giving them this money, all right? It's absolutely appalling.
Thank you. You've got a lot of knowledge. I'd love to do a long interview. Lastly, what message would you give to someone that supports Zionism?
Read the history. If you obviously don't know what's going on. All right, if you support Zionism and you know the history, you're a racist. All right, that's all that can be said. It's as simple as that. You're a racist. All right? And, it's an inhumane approach to life, all right? Because that means you see you and your people as superior to others. We're all the same. Doesn't matter what colour skin, where we live. that, you're a racist.
Exactly.
If you don't know
Yeah.
the history of Zionism, you're ignorant.
Yeah.
All right, which is just, well, no, not as bad actually, because you can read books.
Yeah,
I would recommend you read Ilan Pappé's The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine, read Norman Finkelstein, The Holocaust Industry Beyond Chutzpah, Shlomo Sand, The Invention of the Land of Israel and Invention of the Jewish People. There are lots of very interesting books about that. Don't read Benny Morris, actually, because Benny Morris, when he came over and gave a talk here recently, said he'd rather be a racist than a Boer, because he was accused, all right?
Wow.
Yeah, that's just the last few days. Last few days.
Thank
He said,
you so
I'd
much.
rather be a racist than a Boer. Talking about people's concern, heckling him in this hall about the genocide of Palestinians.
Thank you.